by Honorable Nambeshe in respect to the military court-martial and others which I need to respond to. There are 3 in total. So, Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, I wish to acknowledge receipt of a letter from the Clerk of Parliament referenced the 14th of January 2025, by which I was given a copy of the Hansard because I had indicated to Parliament that Honourable Atkins Katsabe, who sought to remind Parliament as a follow-up to these questions, had not clearly understood what he wanted. So Parliament did the needful and gave me a copy of the Hansard dated 9th January 2025. I do understand English, but it is his accent that was a bit troubling. It is easier for me to understand my colleague Asuma Wasalewa. So there were 3 questions. One was the jurisdiction of the court-martial over civilians, whether the court-martial qualifies as a court of judicature, and the alleged unconstitutional threat to ban the right to bond. Question 1. The court-martial's jurisdiction over civilians. The matter of the court-martial's jurisdiction over civilians is pending determination before the Supreme Court in a case known as Attorney General versus Kabaziguruka, which is an appeal to the Supreme Court. And these same questions have been raised before the court-martial, the General Court-Martial, during the current hearing of General Dr. Kiza Besigye. The same questions have been raised in the Constitutional Court. The same questions have been raised in the East African Court of Appeal. We've received a judgment notice from the Deputy Registrar of the Supreme Court informing us that the judgment in Supreme Court Constitutional Appeal number 2 of 2021, Attorney General versus Kabaziguruka Michael, Honorable, is scheduled to be delivered on the 31st of January 2025, which is Friday. The Supreme Court's decision in this matter will conclusively address this issue of the General Court-Martial's jurisdiction over civilians. We recommend, therefore, that we respect the sub judice rule and avoid discussing a matter that is currently before court. The second question is whether the court-martial is a court of judicature. The court-martial is established under Article 129(1)(d) of the Constitution and Article 110 of the Constitution. Under Article 129, as amended, it states, "The judicial power of Uganda shall be exercised by courts of judicature, which shall consist of A. the Supreme Court, B. Court of Appeal, C. the High Court, D. such subordinate courts as Parliament may by law establish, including Kadi courts for marriage, divorce, inheritance of properties, and guardianship, as may be prescribed by Parliament." Article 210 of the Constitution provides that Parliament shall make laws regulating the Uganda People's Defense Forces, and in particular providing for A, the organs and structures of the Uganda People's Defense Forces. This mandate implicitly includes the establishment of courts such as the General Court Martial. So by passing the UPDF Act, this Honorable Parliament established the General Court Martial as a court of judicature. Question 3. The alleged unconstitutional threat to ban the right to bond. It should be noted that His Excellency the President in his New Year's message stated, among others, that I have raised the issue of bail with His Lordship the Chief Justice, and I have banned the issue of police bond. Any police personnel that gives police bond to a village thief when the case is ready for trial will be held accountable. The handling of village thieves legally but firmly is good for villages and also the thieves themselves. The implication of the above statement is not necessarily to ban police bond, but to emphasize to the police that once a case is ready for trial, then there is no need to give bond to the suspects. It should be noted that the President's statement strictly referred to cases ready for trial. And what this means is that the stage of investigations are complete and the case is ready for hearing, and such the suspect is already on remand. The President's statement was a clarion call to the justice, law and order sector to ensure that they use the discretion jealously in granting bond. In conclusion, the President's statement, as analyzed in its full context, is not a threat to the abolish the right to police bond, but rather a call for caution and greater accountability in its application. I beg to submit.
Thank you, Attorney General. Honorable colleagues, out of our push for this statement, okay, the issue of Dr. Besigye's condition came up, and we said the committee should go and visit him in Luzira. The committee report, whose deadline was today, is ready. Okay? So I would propose that we also receive the committee report and then we debate them at once since they are related. Next item.
Motion for adoption of the report of the Committee on Human Rights on the visit to Luzira Maximum Prison to assess the prison conditions of Colonel Retired Dr. Kiza Besigye and Haj Obed Lutal Kamuregeya.
Thank you. Chair, Committee on Human Rights, as is coming, let's get a point of order.
Mr. Speaker, this House has two sides, the opposition and the government. And it is always with your powers that you determine whether you are giving us free sitting or not. And here we are having a member sitting on our side, is conducting a conversation. But the best practice is, if you want to talk with somebody, you call him out, you talk as we proceed. So is the Honorable Vice for Defense, in order to come on our side, squeeze the Chair President, and disorganizing you, Mr. Speaker, as you are seated there. You are conducting is talking, yet there are a number of seats on this side. Is it in order?
Now, Honorable colleagues, I've seen this happening on several occasions. I think I need to remind you of Rule 83(1)(b), where members are not supposed to move unnecessarily, and even I can declare by election in your constituency now because you've crossed the floor. So I should forgive you now. Go back to your seat. Honorable Linus. Always crack and draft from here later. I declare by election from here because the member has crossed the floor. Yeah. Thank you, Honorable. But colleagues, let's avoid. I've seen it several occasions. Members are moving unnecessarily. One day I will invoke that rule.
I have been here. We were trained. Many members even come to you when the member of parliament is meeting the speaker, all facing, all entering. We have to give respect to the chair.
You know, you come bowing.
You bow, but for me, I feel embarrassed the way members come to you, others walking. How do we give sanctity to this institution? And I will pray that one should be given first priority. Whenever I'm passing before you, I bow.
Honorable Jonathan Odura, are you hearing?
and the dress
is
code,
one of the most disciplined members.
Mr. Speaker, the dress code is dying. Yeah. You ruled one time here, people are dressing the way they want. If we have to amend the rule on dress code, we say I can come with my gumboots, the way you want from my farm, but decorum is the key here.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, take note. No, colleagues, let's save time. Time is not our best side. I read that on a general. Yes. Honorable Sariro, procedure issue.
Right, Speaker, I thank you. There were two directives that we are given by the presiding officer on the issue of Dr. Besigye. The first time the issue was raised by the Honorable CTV Uganda, and I was among the people who made supplementary comments. And the Attorney General was asked to present a report. Subsequently, when there was no report, the opposition chief whip equally raised issues, supplemented by the Honorable Atkins. Listening to the learned Attorney General, his response was limited to the comments that had been made by the opposition chief whip. The earlier issues that were raised are omitted in the statement by the Attorney General. And even the report by, your guidance to the Human Rights Committee did not cover the issues that were first raised by the Honorable Semuju and subsequently other members on the committee. So, Honorable Speaker, I just wanted your guidance in light of the fact that the statement by the learned Attorney General omits some of the issues that had been raised there and seeks to focus on only the issues that had been raised by the government chief. As a matter of fact, the presiding officer directed the Attorney General twice in as far as the report is concerned.
Thank you. Attorney General, you wanted to respond to that?
Mr. Speaker, I want to state categorically clear. My response is based on a copy of the Hansard, what is written on the Hansard as it was given to me. There was nothing deliberate that I intended to leave out anything, okay? But if you feel that something else was left out, we can make reference to that particular Hansard. I will apply for it and make extra responses.
So now, just let's make it easy. Honorable Attorney General, the Hansard was referring to issues raised by Honorable Atkins because you asked for the Hansard because you said you didn't understand his submission, so you wanted the record. Now, for the other people, you didn't say that you didn't understand. So we knew you had picked the issues and you would respond to them. Honorable Jonathan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, many times the front bench makes commitment here. And in the spirit of the House, we do concede when they request that they will come after 2 weeks or a month. One such commitment that came from him, the Deputy Attorney General, was when I asked the question here on the performance of the judiciary, which came from the report released by the judiciary stating that the Supreme Court was able to perform at only 15%, meaning that about 85% of decisions expected from them were not delivered. The same with the Court of Appeal that had performed around 20 or 25. The best was High Court at 35. But that translated into about 80,000 cases that are before courts, and those of criminal nature means that we have people detained, which accounts for the congestion in the prisons, accounts for a number of all these things. The Deputy Attorney General undertook that he would come here with a full report accounting for those cases. And if I may cite one example, Mr. Speaker, there is a gentleman called Robert Biarohanga, who has spent 28 years in Luzira prisons without trial. 28 years. I know many people charged with murder and capital offenses that have been sentenced to 15, 20 years. So that tells you already that even if the person is tried eventually, the sentence that will be passed by court may actually be 5 or 10 years. So how do you then compensate that person for their 20 years that you have wasted? And that is just one case amongst so many. So he had undertaken, I think the period has passed, to bring a comprehensive report detailing cases that are pending at the Supreme Court and what are the issues. And I raised that issue because this parliament, in my opinion, had done very good justice to the judiciary. When we passed the Administration of Judiciary Act into law to make them comfortable to do their work, when we approved the number of judges, judicial officers, we expected speedy and timely disposal of cases so that those ones who are guilty are judged as such and then they are sent. Then those ones who are not are removed. If you look at the statistics, out of the 80,000 plus people who are in prisons, more than 50 to 60,000 are actually on remand. 50 to 60,000 are on remand. What happens when they are judged or when they are found not to be guilty? That's the issue. So we don't have to come every time to remind the Deputy Attorney General, and I think it speaks to what the Honorable Asuman is talking about. My understanding of parliamentary procedure seems to be different. I expected the front bench to be serious, to be supported by their team, that when they make commitments here, there are people to remind them. That's why, Mr. Speaker, you have so many procedures reminding you, or I have to come and line in your office just to remind you that, sir, there was that issue I raised a month ago, and it has not been answered. Can you put on the order paper? That's why the business of this house cannot move.
Thank you.
So if they could be cautioned and probably guided, so that the commitments they make here, they are there to eat, so that we don't clog this house so much.
Thank you. I totally agree with you, Honorable Jonathan. And I've been emphasizing, Honorable Collins, that we don't clog the order paper. We don't clog the order paper. But now sometimes you bring responses already overtaken by time and all that, you know, we end up having issues. Honorable Attorney General, these other issues.
Honorable, that may have been an oversight because I really acted based on what was raised then.
Okay.
I'm going to write to the clerk so that I get a copy of that other answered, so that it can guide me on what was actually raised.
No,
but also be mindful that if it falls within what is expected to come out of court, I will leave that out and respond to that which is not.
No, it's okay. It's okay. We know issues when they are sub judice. You come here when you're limited, you say it's sub judice, and we also pronounce ourselves on that. That's number one. Yeah? And number two, I think what I'm going to do, let's not wait. I'm going to instruct the clerk to write to you. Because you see, what I know what they do, the practice under Office of Government Chief Whip has been to pick these issues, and you write to the minister responsible to come and respond, because this is what coordination is all about. So right now, Prime Minister, I would request really you discuss with the office, with the technical officers in office of the government chief whip. They make it very easy for your front bench. The issues are always picked, you write, and you also give us copies. Okay, so that we avoid this situation. Now, honorable colleagues, we have this report. Why don't we go to these statements for sure?
1 minute, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable Atkins?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It pains me, surely, seeing Honorable Attorney General making a fool of this House, and with due respect.
But the Honorable Attorney General said he doesn't understand you. For him to understand you, I have to deliver answer to him.
No, you see, that's the foolery that I'm talking about. Mr. Speaker, sir, it depends on the gravity of the matter. You're talking about life and death. And Mr. Speaker, sir, when he went to the clerk to Parliament, he was served with a copy of the Hansard, and he called me out of the chambers. Mr. Speaker, sir, respectfully, I went to the Attorney General. We sat just on the seat, and he had a paper copy. And it shocks me to my bone seeing the Attorney General coming here and not addressing the matter. Mr. Speaker, sir, some of us have been caught. We know what Dr. Besigye is gone through. I was seated next to her sister, Dr. Olive Kabusinje. The lady cried all through the court session. That's the matter we're talking about, Mr. Dag. Be kind to the family. Dr. Besigye may not be a relative, but be kind to his son, his wife, his sisters and brothers, in the entire country, especially some of us that believe in him. Now, sir, this cannot be just a joking matter. You come here, just pass time, as if we are here to serve at your pleasure. We are not entertainers, Mr. Dak. We're not. And Mr. Speaker, as I sit ground, please let him commit, and it should not be beyond tomorrow. We've been waiting for that report. You have the answer. You have no excuses. This is not a house for excuses. Enough is enough. We want to see that report tomorrow, Mr. Dag, with the due respect. And in conclusion, I make this conclusion that surely from today moving forward, I made this conclusion, and I want to put it before you, Mr. Attorney General, that being a deputy Attorney General does not change who you were, it reveals who you were. And I want to ask you to please, for 1 minute, have a human heart. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Now, Honorable colleague, I don't know why we've gone personal. Oh no. Huh? I don't know why we've gone personal. I think we were moving very well, but now the challenge I'm getting, honorable colleagues, is we stand up on point of procedure, then we start submitting substantively on items that we have here. Why don't we receive the report of the Human Rights Committee? I open up numbers. You people, you debate.
But we need that commitment, Mr. Speaker, that report that he will support to address himself or pay attention to tomorrow without fail. Mr. Speaker, sir, that's my request. This is from family, this is from the global community, and this is from our fellow citizens. We can't allow to just sit in this house looking at the front seat, making this institution that you preside over, Mr. Speaker, in a joke. We're not going to allow that, Mr. Speaker. That is your constitutional office. You're a presiding officer. We are not going to allow people like my honorable brother making a joke or a fool of this house. Not on our watch, Mr. Dag. Not on our watch.
Honorable colleagues, I think where we've reached, I'll be directing the clerk. Anyone who picks a microphone without my permission and you submit, that submission shall be expunged from the record of Parliament. Maybe we can have order. Otherwise, people are going to keep grabbing microphones, and then the ones who have behaved will be like, but why are we? Yeah. Otherwise, anyone who has a microphone in front of them, they can easily grab, express their opinions. But I request we calm down, okay? We sent the committee to Luzira. The committee has brought its report.
Honorable Speaker, I find that to be more or less a person attack, an attack on my person as an individual and character. And I want to request that it should be expanded. If he has anything personal with me, we can handle it outside of Parliament. Thank you.
Yeah, now, honorable colleagues, the tone is a little bit different from the language. But I don't know. These days, Honorable Atkins. These days, Honorable Atkins. Maybe we shall have a talk in the office. Let's have a talk. I understand why you're behaving the way you're behaving these days. It's because it has. Sometimes I keep quiet. I see situations, I decide I keep quiet. I leave you talk, and in the end, I keep quiet. But I think we are creating, we are brewing a storm in a teacup. We are listening to each other. There is a report of the committee. I would say, let's go to that report. Today, I'm so lenient. I want to be as lenient as possible. It will be up to you. If it reaches 5, I wanted to adjourn at 5. Okay, I'm seeing the time you're eating. So if you decide to use your time this way, then at a certain time I will adjourn and we've concluded the matter. Yeah. So, Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, permit me to lay on table the following documents. Number 1, a report of the Human Rights Committee. Number 2, a minority report attached to the report of the Human Rights Committee. Number 3, minutes of 2 meetings held in respect of this subject. And number 4, submissions of written submissions of Uganda Human Rights Commission and written submissions of Uganda Prison Services. I beg to lay. Right Honourable Speaker, permit me to present a report of the Committee on Human Rights on the visit to Luzira Maximum Security Prison to assess the prison conditions of Colonel, retired Dr. Kiza Besigye, and Haji Obeid Lutale Kamulega. With your indulgence, Right Honourable Speaker, may I skip pages 1, which has introduction. It also has the members of Parliament who visited Luzira. Pages 4 that has the legal framework. Page 5 is still legal framework. Page 6, objectives of the field visit and methodology.
Yes,
and
we can do from 2.0.
From
2.0.
2.0.
On page 6. Objectives, methodology, we need to know how you went and all those.
Right Honorable Speaker, the objectives were, number 1, to visit Colonel retired Dr. Shiza Besigye and Haji Obeid Lutale Kamulegia to establish their detention conditions. Number 2, to assess the human rights conditions of Luzira Maximum Security Prison. The methodology. The committee, Roman 1, conducted a tour of Luzira Maximum Security Prison. 2, held a meeting with the regional prisons commander for Kampala Extra and the officers in charge of Luzira Maximum Security Prison. 3, interacted with Colonel retired Dr. Shiza Besigye and Haji Obeid Lutale Kamulegia. 4, held meetings with the Honorable, the Attorney General, the Uganda Prisons, and the Uganda Prisons Service. 5, received written submissions from the Uganda Human Rights Commission. And 6, reviewed the standard minimum rules for the treatment of prisoners. Findings. This section of the report presents the findings of the committee through the aforementioned methodology. 4.1, visit to Luzira Maximum Security Prison to assess the physical conditions of the prison. The committee visited the prison and interacted with the prisoners who raised the following issues. 4.1.1, Dr. Shiza Besigye's personal issues in prison. Colonel retired Dr. Shiza Besigye informed the committee that he feels safer in Luzira prison compared to other detention facilities. He commended the prison authorities for their professionalism and for ensuring that inmates' rights are upheld and protected. He also had added that the prison doctors visit him on a daily basis and is allowed to see his personal doctor whenever the need arises. Dr. Shiza Besigye noted that he has access to adequate food with 3 authorized suppliers providing his needs. Similarly, his co-accused Haji Obeid Lutale has 3 authorized suppliers providing his food. They cook their own meals for security reasons. It should be noted that whereas the Uganda Prison Service provides 3 meals a day for other prisoners, Dr. Shiza Besigye informed the committee that he refused to eat the food provided by the prison for fear of being poisoned. He acknowledged significant improvements in the prison conditions over the years. Systems have been computerized and the facility is better maintained than it used to be. He further confirmed that there had been a remarkable improvement between 2016 and the present day, with the prison currently fitted with running water, waterborne toilets, the abolition of the bucket system in Luzira Maximum Security Prison, and a fresh coat of paint had been applied to the walls, which were all commendable developments. Dr. Besigye, however, highlighted some personal concerns. Number 1, he is detained in a highly restricted section, which he described as a prison within a prison, requiring passage through 5 gates to reach his cell. He expressed fear for his safety, particularly as he is held alone in a cell with a toilet, a shower within the northern wing, which accommodates a total of 18 prisoners. Number 2, he shared concerns about unexplained late-night activities in the prison, such as padlocks being opened and closed without anyone entering his cell. He fears being poisoned or harmed in such environment. Roman 3, Dr. Besigye lamented that he is not allowed to interact with fellow inmates and the rules applied to him are more restrictive than those applied to other prisoners. Roman 4, he is not allowed to attend prayers with other inmates in the prayer houses within the prison. Part 5.0 deals with the observations and the recommendations of the committee. Number 1, food for prisoners. The committee observed that the food provided by Uganda Prison Service to the prisoners lacks variety and does not meet the minimum standards of a balanced diet as provided for in the law on account of the limited budgetary provisions. To mitigate this, the Commissioner General informed the committee that Uganda Prison Service allows inmates access to their own non-cooked food supplies from external sources. Committee recommends that government should provide adequate funding to the Uganda Prison Service to exploit the prison farms for purposes of producing food crops for the provision of nutrition to prisoners. Conditions of detention. The committee observed that interventions have been instituted to improve the living conditions of prisoners in Luzira Maximum Security Prison, as confirmed by Colonel retired Dr. Besigye, who stated that there had been remarkable improvements. The reports of running water, waterborne toilets, the abolition of the bucket system in Luzira Maximum Prison, and the fresh court are commendable. The committee recommends that the bucket system, as far as possible, should be eliminated from all facilities in the country. Government should increase funding to the Uganda Prison Service to facilitate the construction of waterborne facilities in all prisons in the country. Congestion. The committee noted that the rate of occupancy of Luzira Maximum Security Prison exceeds 500% since the facility was designed to hold 600 prisoners but currently holds 3,292 inmates. The committee recommends that government should prioritize setting up new prison facilities or expanding the existing ones to address the issue of congestion. The committee also recommends that government should take practical steps through the judiciary to urgently address the issue of case backlog. Separation and classification. The committee noted that the current incarceration of convicts, the condemned, and prisoners on remand in the same facility results in prisoners on remand who should be presumed innocent until proved guilty being treated as convicts, whereas, as much as possible, their rights should not be severely curtailed to the same extent. The committee recommends that the 3 categories of prisoners should be housed in different prison facilities to ensure that the rights of prisoners on remand are not abused since they are innocent until proved guilty. Prolonged pre-trial detention. The committee observed that pre-trial detention periods in Uganda range from days to decades, with some cases taking as long as 28 years in the judicial system without resolution. It's well elaborated that justice delayed is simply justice denied. Notably, some of these cases are awaiting ministers' orders as they have an element of mental illness. The committee recommends that the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs should take appropriate measures to address impediments to access to justice. Right Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, the committee appreciates the contributions of the Uganda Prison Service, the Honorable, the Attorney General, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, and the members of the committee who turned up in large numbers to attend to this very important function. The committee prays that this report is considered and the recommendations therein adopted. I beg to move. Right Honorable Speaker, as I stated, 4 of our colleagues exercised their rights under Rule 205 of the Rules of Procedure to Minority Report, stating 3 issues, areas of dissent. With your permission, I invite the Honorable Jonathan Odur to present the Minority Report.
Honorable Jonathan.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. The first area of dissent is the safety of Dr. Kiza Besigye, known as Uganda Remand 1860. He was informed by Dr. Besigye that he is in fear of being killed in prison through poisoning. His biggest fear is that the state, being the complainant in his case, this fact, the Commissioner General of Prisons confirmed knowledge of the fears of Dr. Besigye and stated that it has put the prisons authorities in a precarious situation, having a prisoner under them who fears being killed by them. The second area of dissent is accessed Uganda Remand 1867 of 2024, retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye, who informed the committee of an incident where deep in the night, to be exact after midnight, 2 of the 4 doors were opened. This scared him into shouting loudly, and the people opening retreated. He sought an explanation, and 3 different versions of events were told to him. The first, that there were some items forgotten within his detention facility. Secondly, he was told that the opening of the doors were because some padlocks had not been locked. This routine inspection by the prison authorities to come into the night and inspect whether the prisoners are inside. This made him fear that the contradiction was not justified. Point number 3 of dissent is the solitary confinement of Uganda Remand 1867 of 2024. It was the submission of retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye that he was being detained alone and is not allowed to interact with other prisoners, including attending prayers on Sunday with the rest of the prisoners. This is contrary to Section 57C of the Prisons Act 206. The Commissioner General of Prisons informed the committee that the isolation of retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye is first for his own safety, but also because Dr. Kiza Besigye has the capacity to excite the prisoners, which might spiral out of control. The Uganda Human Rights Commission, in its written submission to the committee, noted that solitary confinement, when used excessively under harsh conditions, can be considered a violation of human rights due to its detrimental effects on the mental health and well-being of a person. In fact, Dr. Kiza Besigye complained of being in a difficult mental health situation which cannot be handled by the medical personnel at Luzira prison. Point of descent number 4 is confiscation of the Christmas greetings to Ugandans. Uganda remand 1867, Dr. Kiza Besigye wrote a Christmas greetings and message to Ugandans, and it was confiscated for having 2 words, freedom and justice. There was no plausible justification by the prison authorities for detaining a message, confiscating it, and eventually sentencing that message to death, and the execution of the message was done. Point number 5, which is the last in dissent, is the denial of the advocates, denial of access to advocates to Dr. Kiza Besigye. The committee learned that Council Lukwago areas advocate to retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye was denied access to his client on a critical day when the court-martial was sitting the next day. The lawyers had papers, applications, and affidavits that needed the signature of the accused persons. The Commissioner General informed the committee that he denied the lawyer Lukwago areas access to Dr. Kiza Besigye, since that same day there were members of parliament who were visiting Dr. Besigye, and he could not allow both the lawyer and the MPs to access him. Our recommendations. The minority recommends that Parliament takes keen interest into the fears of retired Colonel Dr. Kiza Besigye of being killed in prison by poison. 2, the minority recommends that the trial of retired Colonel Kiza Besigye and subsequent detention in Luzira prison be terminated, and any trial be held under the civilian authorities. I beg to report, this report is signed by Honorable Nyeko Derek, Honorable Nabagabe Kalule Flavia, Honorable Zake Francis, and myself. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Jonathan. Thank you. Honorable colleagues, we've received the 2 reports. Members of the committee are constrained to debate the same. So I'm just going to allow me, because these are our findings, we shouldn't take, okay, that long. So I'll start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I'm picking you, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I've picked you. You follow yourselves in that order.
Thank you. Right.
Okay. What we do, I hope Clark has helped me to note, we can mix. Okay? Yes, let's try to mix.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'd like to thank the Chair for the report and for some of the good recommendations. I know this report is only not concerning Luzira. Some of the things he has mentioned are happening even elsewhere. And I know the committee has even ever moved to other prisons and saw what is happening there. So some of the recommendations should be taken up for action, but most commonly, the congestion is almost everywhere in all the prisons in the country. Then secondly, the prolonged pre-trial detention. Even the Attorney General, I think, had already mentioned about it. So it's a very, very big concern that prisoners stay long when they are not tried, and also that contributes to the congestion. So I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable colleagues, on these issues, I saw the reaction. There is a matter which has been settled, okay, from what I see, because the majority report touched it, and the minority report didn't didn't disagree. There had been perceived a situation that Besigye is denied food. I think that's a settled matter now. He appointed 3 people who can take for him non-cooked food. If you are not among those 3, because the public should know, because you know they can go to Luzira carrying food and all that. If you are not among those 3 who were nominated by Besigye, your food won't be allowed in. And the same applies to Mr. Obed, Haj Obed Kamrege. I think that's a settled matter. Honorable Jonathan, on that, because I wanted us to shape our issues very well. We know the issues which were raised here.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to confirm that position, that any member of the public that would like to support Dr. Besigye is free as long as the food goes through those 3.
Okay.
Because, as you know, once you're in prison, you are limited and support is required. So it is not like the rest should not. But it should also be on the record initially that the main point that was raised here was that Dr. Besigye was denied food. It is true, he confirmed to us that when he went to prison at first, he was allowed to access his own food and prepare. Then at some point, the prisons changed the rules and said, we will not allow you to prepare your own food. Mm-hmm. What we shall allow is that you give us money and we buy for you from the canteen, the staff canteen, or you send us outside and we buy for you. Now that is linked to his fear. So he refused to eat what ordinarily would be a hunger strike. And the prisons eventually reconciled and agreed that yes, you can now resume and get your supplies, but because you have accused us that you are not safe here, we want 3 people to be the one to bring for you food. So that matter has been settled, although it was a concern.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Christine. Honorable
Thank you.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I think it is important for this country to get the truth. I was among the people who went to Luzira. The reason is given by Dr. Besigye for not eating food. And the prison is also answered. They said they were receiving many visitors bringing food to Dr. Besigye. And they were worried. So what they said, it was just an oversight. It was a point of agreement on whether they should continue bringing food for Dr. Besigye or he buys food from the prison canteen. And because they wanted to safeguard his life, they said as prisoners, we are not going to allow all these people whom we do not trust to bring food for Dr. Besigye. So the only idea was for him to buy food from their safe stores. So Dr. Besigye was also adamant. He said, I cannot trust the jailer. Therefore, I can only designate my person who will be supplying me with the food. That was what he said. But for you to say that they were forcing him to buy food from the prison, it was not true. I think we need to tell Ugandans the truth, other than exciting the nation. This is what, and Right Honorable Speaker, the gentleman was very honest. Even what our colleagues from opposition were pushing him to say otherwise, Dr. Besigye was honorable enough to tell the committee the truth and the whole truth. Even the issue of his staying in a single room, it is not true. These are people just like those of you who have rented. You have an apartment, and one of you staying here, another one here. It is not true that he's even staying in one room and he's put alone there. Even access to worship, he gets even a bishop to attend to him religiously. So I think it is important to tell the country the truth.
Thank you. But Rook, honorable colleagues, me, I see, apart from the tone, you presented the same. Apart from the tone, okay? Yeah, the only issue which I had there, which Honorable Wakori said, was it is being insinuated that Besigye was being forced to buy food from the canteen. But from the records I have, I interacted with members on both sides, opposition and NRM, who went to Luzira. You're corroborating information, and I think we are moving very well. Okay, we are moving very well on these issues. Honorable Christine, then Honorable Nwagaba.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity.
I'm picking from here and here, so but I remember.
Right Honorable, I want to appreciate government on a note that Dr. Besigye made a statement on improvement in the conditions in prison. It means that the effort of Parliament has been considered. I now want to support also one particular recommendation on the removal of the bucket system. And I want to agree that in some of our areas, the bucket system is no longer there. How I pray that it cuts across the country. And also to thank the prison leadership for the better handling techniques. Because surely, when we look at this situation, where Dr. Besigye is allowed to see his personal doctor on daily basis, whenever necessary. I am actually giving a reference that when he is allowed to see his personal doctor, that is okay, because there is no aspect of imposing doctors on him. So my prayer, Right Honorable, is that the improvement in the conditions in Luzira prisons should cut across the entire country in relation to the provision of water services. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Nwagaba.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I will respond to the two reports and begin with the one from the Attorney General. I would invite the Attorney General to reread Article 129 of the Constitution and see whether the reference to subordinate courts includes the reference to military courts or military tribunals, as they are called, vis-a-vis Article 210 of the Constitution. And if you applied both the strict interpretation rule and the jus dem generis rule, whether you would import the provisions of Article 210 to Article 129. And I will respectfully disagree with you that military courts are envisaged as subordinate courts under Article 129. Secondly, in respect of police bond, well, thank you for the clarification, but you need to be very clear and advise the policemen who have now taken the presidential directive on banning giving of bonds, because the bond is giving of a bond is a discretion. It's a discretion on the police, and you know the time, the constitutional time frame of bringing suspects to courts, the weaknesses in investigations and the like. So you must be very clear that yes, if you are to deny a person bond, make sure that you produce that person in court within 48 hours. Lastly, on the report of both the minority and the majority report of the Human Rights Committee, I believe they both agree, but essentially they both agree, but there are two areas. One, the idea of solitary confinement of a prisoner, especially who is on remand, because solitary confinement is literally a punishment. It is actually serving a sentence. So the solitary confinement of a prisoner on remand, to me, is illegal. It amounts to torture and must be condemned. And the prison officers must be cautioned and told in an explicit terms they should not be confining a prisoner who is on remand to solitary confinement. Two, and lastly, wrong pre-trial remands. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated substantial monies to the judiciary. And actually the judiciary has over-decentralized. I even pity some of the recruited judicial officers who have been posted to sub-counties without any facilities. But unfortunately, the office of the DPP, which deals with people in the prisons, has not been given matching resources to recruit staff. And this is an area that the Attorney General and the Minister of Finance should take it upon themselves. Either we halt the further expansion of the judiciary until we match the human resources, the office of the DPP, or do away with the judiciary in some of the areas. Because part of the explanation why we have prisoners on remand for these long periods is largely because the office of the DPP is not as facilitated as the judiciary. But we also need to caution the judiciary. There are provisions in the Constitution where you can give people, you can raise people on their own cognizance after they have spent the mandatory period in the prison without trial. The judiciary is not using that opportunity, is not using that discretion. We really need to cut down the numbers of prisoners on remand in a prison who have not been tried. Person being in prison for 28 years, honestly, and then you sentence him after? No. We need something to be done, Mr. Speaker, sir.
But by the way, on that issue, I forgot. I don't know. Well, the presiding officer had already pronounced that the Attorney General responds. But I think these are some of the issues which the committee should go and look at. For example, someone in prison for 28 years on remand, it just shook me. And it can happen to any of us. It can happen. 28 years, I don't know which crime we would have committed. I don't know which sentence that person will get. Procedurally, let me get the opinion of my colleagues here. Procedurally, I'm still just trying to get an opinion of the colleagues. No, mine which I'm on is different. I'm on someone who is in prison for 28 years. You're talking of Besigye who went there yesterday. We are talking of 28 years. Okay? So, Honorable Chair rules. Honorable Chair rules. On that same person of 28 years?
He's not in for 28 years just on remand. He has never appeared in court.
For 28 years?
Because you can be on remand when you are appearing in court. But this very one, there are actually two. One has been there for 28, another one 16 years, and both of them have never appeared in court. And they're just waiting for the minister's order.
Now, because you see why, yes, Attorney General before Chairman rules, so that I seek my guidance on this.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. When we appeared before the Committee of Human Rights earlier today, I appeared together with the Commissioner General of Prisons, and some of these issues were raised. We agreed that we are going to take 2 days, engage with the leadership of prisons and get all the necessary information and see the next step. Either ask for an automatic release or advise accordingly. But in 2 days, we'll be able to get
so
back
if you're asking for 2 days,
yes.
If you've agreed upon 2 days, can you update the House on Tuesday?
Yes.
Over the same?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
No.
Mr. Speaker.
No, honorable colleagues, let us take it as if, no, let us not take it as if the minister has gotten only 2. No, because this came from the House itself. I'm sure they must have given more information, and there are more people. Okay?
Mr. Speaker, so, among the issues they raised, there were some who have been there awaiting ministers' orders. Those who are deemed mentally, and they have been waiting. So, but now we need to engage with the commissioner, okay?
On this matter, Honorable Katunta, I had wanted your guidance, but with the submission of the Attorney General, I've gotten a true picture.
Yes.
The Attorney General has said, they've agreed that within 2 days they should sort this matter. Okay? And I'm saying 2 days start tomorrow and Thursday. They even have an allowance of Friday and Monday. Then on Tuesday, the coming Tuesday, the Attorney General updates the House on the status of prisoners of that category and what they've done about it. And then we can carry it from there.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Can we continue with the debate? Honourable Katuntu.
I don't, as you know, I don't always rise up on such issues. Right Honourable Speaker, we seem to be dealing with a systematic problem. It's not about Luzira. And the landed Attorney General should be talking about the entire prison service. Because we might be thinking it is Luzira, but somewhere in Mitoma there in a prison, there is somebody who has not gotten justice for 10 or 20 years. So this issue is not only about Uganda Prison Service. It is about the judiciary. It is about the Directorate of Public Prosecution. Because if you have investigated a matter and you have a suspect or can accuse, and you have not prosecuted him for 20 years, 20 years, this is not, this is something ordinary which can even, should attract further investigation, including a judicial commission of inquiry. It is not only illegal, it is certainly unconstitutional. Because the Constitution, Right Honourable Speaker, demands for a fair, speedy trial. It's a constitutional command. How can it, you know, somebody has been arrested and is now begging to be prosecuted. And he begs for 20 years. Please prosecute me. Please prosecute for 20 years. We cannot sit here as legislators. Not these guys who put on wages as judges to say they are dispensing a system of justice which keeps somebody in jail for 20 years without a due process of the law. So, Right Honourable Speaker, as the Attorney General comes after the days you've given him, I think he should be able to look at the entire, and he gives us statistics. I thank you, Right Honourable.
Attorney General, honourable colleagues, we are diverting our debate. We have been on an issue, so let's remain focused. Attorney General.
Right Honourable Speaker, this in light with what my senior Honourable Katuntu has said, the Commissioner General for Prisons has shared a list already. So we are going to look at it.
Across the whole country?
Yes, across the whole country.
Okay.
And I think that should also go a long way in answering what Honourable Dur was saying earlier.
Thank you.
We will report back on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But Honourable Attorney General, as we report back, someone slept on a job, and which resulted into very serious and bad consequences. Huh? It's unacceptable. 28 years? Number one, who is keeping that prisoner? If you have someone for 28 years, you've never taken them to prison. So, I think it shouldn't stop on you looking at these prisoners, and anyway, you're going to report, but you should be looking at really taking action on those officers and probably compensating these people. 28 years, someone has never been caught. Oh my. You know, some of the things, they appear like stories in novels and action movies. Huh? But let us not be diverted, honourable colleagues. Let us refocus. We go back to where we were. Honourable Ward, Betty.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. And I would like to thank the Committee of Human Rights and also the Attorney General for the report and the statement. At least it is opening our eyes on what is happening in prisons. Today is doctor, tomorrow is somebody else. I would like to tell you that for us as mothers, it is so painful, especially the minority report pointed out at doctor going on hunger strike. Is very, very painful. His brother, his younger brother, died after prison. So he has all the fear for being poisoned. Why do we deny him food from out? We know that the practice there, yes, it was there. At first he was denied. That was why he had to go on hunger strike. Until then they open.
Let's go on unsettled issues, because settled issues will drain us.
Yeah. So at least we are happy that this is now helping us even to solve other problems, other people's problems. At least one time I even visited Luzira prison and gathered with people from the north to find out that one person was there without proper documentation. How do you allow a person in prison without proper documentation? Then I ask, how did he enter here without proper documentation? So I think that one should also be investigated. I left it out to the legal minds. You know, for us, we are not legal minds. But it is very painful when we take people in detention, in prison. We all want peace. And in order for us to have this peace, justice should just be there. It should be there for all of us.
Thank you, Honorable. Colleagues, you know, Honorable Dur shocked me, so I'm still recovering. And that someone has been in prison more than, I think, the years Honorable Frank Akawi has. Honorable Frank Akawi, are you more than 28? Oh, yes, Honorable Frank Akawi here, and I think Honorable Auma Herin, and Honorable, you know, it's really shocking to me, the visit to the prisoners. But then I will ask you, Chairman, also. You have been giving us a report every year on status of prison. How come you had never seen this? How? Parliament has been here for the last over 28 years.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable. Right Honorable, the record will bail me out. We have constantly raised in our reports the questions of long pre-trial detention. It's on record. This House has made resolutions in respect of this matter.
You see, Chairman, why I'm asking how you present. For example, Honorable Dur has made it very easy for me, and by shocking me, that someone for 28 years. I don't think even Attorney General would hear that someone has been in prison for 28 years. And it goes on as business as usual. But when we do generic reports, no, okay?
Right Honorable, I am not in the habit of authoring generic reports. Yeah. I am a slave of detail. In all our reports, we have indicated to this House, naming persons, giving the dates on which they were arrested. Biamukama Alifred, arrested on 12 March 1997. The case, murder, mental issue, schizophrenia, the court circuit, Mbarara. If you calculate from 1997 to current date, it gives you 26 years. We have stated, named the specific prisoners. But, Right Honorable Speaker, you were talking about sleeping on the job. Even the Commissioner General of Prisons has constantly reminded the Ministry of Justice and the judiciary. We tasked them every 6 months to write to the judiciary and point out the plight of these prisoners. And they have been doing that consistently.
Anyway, Tuesday, let's look at this matter on Tuesday, extensively, okay? Tuesday. So, Honorable Rita. What's up?
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I would like to comment on two things. The first, the Deputy Attorney General's statement that has pointed out the issue of the presidential directive on bail. Right Honorable Speaker, the issue about bail or bond is a two-edged sword. It amazes me that if you owe a moneylender any coin, you will actually not be granted bail. But if you steal a border from a border rider and you are arrested, even by the help of themselves, in a day you are going to be given bail. Bond rather. I had two meetings with border riders in Barra City on the 28th of December last year and the 24th of January. They are very devastated and desperate, to the extent that they think probably taking the law in their hands is the solution. So as we agitate to say bond should be given to people, we also need to consider the village thieves. I think the president's idea is really factual. People who steal goats, who steal people's, raid people's chickens, they go scot-free because the moment they enter, they are given bail. So we need to be very considerate, Attorney General, on that matter. So as you cry the other side, that bond should be for everybody. And the issue of the lack of the small claims courts comes in there. So Right Honorable, I think the Speaker should be able to elaborate on this issue. The Attorney General, that if somebody has taken my goat, it is 150,000. Must I go through the whole process? Because the police, for instance, in Barra City, are full of young people, and they cannot have the capacity to process all these small claims to be cleared so that they go back home. So we need, I request your indulgence, that Right Honorable Speaker, you task the Deputy Attorney General to substantiate on this matter of the small claims, the issue of bond. Then the other, Right Honorable Speaker, most times in this House, most of you are lawyers, you are referring to the law, but also sociologists exist. The functions of the prisons are very key. Most cardinal are four, but I just want to use two. One is the issue of deterrence and rehabilitation. And recently we talk about restitution. So if you are confined, you are in jail for 28 years, others are actually 15, others could even be 3 months, which you shouldn't be. Are we solving any problem, or are we addressing the cardinal reasons why people go to jail? So I think I support Right Honorable that the committee should go back and bring lists of individuals who are in these prisons. The person being spoken about here comes from Barara, and I don't think he or she is the only one. So the committee should do us justice, go back and bring these lists so that we task the minister, the judiciary, to be able to remove these cases so that we know we are making work, we are not just here speaking. Thank you very much, Right Honorable.
Thank you. I think, Rita, what you're saying is in line with what Honorable Nwagaba requested, that clarify to the police officers. This clarification would be good so that they know it's not just a matter of denying. Ensure people are tried. If they are not tried within the constitutional limit time, give them bond. Okay? But of course, village thieves are a big problem. Someone just came to my trees. He had the audacity to cut trees and even bring a Roland road. and he's from Maroon. And then they go to Mitoma, they get bond. And then coffee, you do coffee, they harvest on your behalf. You do coffee, they harvest. You do seedlings. When they want to go and get a drink, they pass by your nursery bed, they sell around 10 seedlings and get money for waraji. So it's a big problem, but I mean, voters, voters. Yes, Honorable Nzima.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I want to make comment on 3 issues. Issue number 1 is to thank the committee for this report. Because when this issue was presented in the House, it appeared very nasty, and it was also it was accompanied by a picture of Dr. Besigye. But when you listened to the report, it has clarified all this. And on the other side, the report also raises question about the credibility of the issue which was raised and the manner in which it was raised. So I want to thank the committee for that. The issue of limited dietary implications to the inmates. I had an interaction with the prison authorities. They said actually they produce all the food for the prison. I mean people who are in prison. And also they have gone ahead to produce seeds for the country. They are supplying many farms, private farms with the seeds and seedlings. So I think the best we could do is to encourage them to diversify the production of food so that it can meet that dietary challenge. The issue raised by the committee about congestion. I had an interaction with a former inmate who told me he had the chance to go to 2 of these prisons, Chigo and Luzira. But he told me if he is to tell me the stories, much as people complain about situations in Luzira, it is worse in Chigo. Even the food is not enough. When it comes to sleeping spaces, if you are lucky to get a space where to put yourself, you will be actually the luckiest. So I think the recommendation by the committee that government needs to look into building more prisons so that we reduce the congestion. We need to build more facilities, prison facilities, to reduce the congestion. I really support it, and as a Parliament, we should really look into thinking about that. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Namboze.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I visited Luzira in my capacity as the Shadow Minister for Internal Affairs, and I had the opportunity to go inside the prison and even visit the room, the so-called room where Dr. Besigye is being held. First of all, Mr. Speaker, I want to tell colleagues here that Dr. Besigye was once a Minister of Internal Affairs. Today, he is the prisoner for whose rights this House, sits to deliberate. Let's not wait until we become suspects or even convicts in Luzira before we would come out to support for better conditions in our prisons. Mr. Speaker, when I visited the room where Dr. Besigye is being held, and I want to put the room in commas, it is like a hall that is only 1 meter wide. In fact, the adjacent bathroom is bigger than the sleeping cubicle. There is no window, but a single ventilator that is about 20 feet high. It's like when you are in that cubicle, it is as if you are in a hall. There's no window, and I think these are cubicles.
Honorable Numbers, what is cubicle? So, sir, for the record.
I'm sorry, I withdraw that. I wanted to tell you what I wanted to express was that it is really a very tiny place. It's like a box. It's very tiny.
It's a small cubicle. For record purpose.
And it is so small, Mr. Speaker, that I was tempted to forget that this is Parliament, and I used that word. I'm sorry. So, Mr. Speaker, I think these cubicles, which are slightly bigger than a coffin, were created for hardcore criminals who have been convicted, but not people on remand. People on remand are not guilty. They have not committed any offense. They are just being held there for the sake of the processes of law. And the probability that they will be declared innocent is even high. It is so bad to make somebody to serve a punishment while on remand. Remand, in any case, Mr. Speaker, if we had provisions, we would not mix up convicts and the people on remand. 2, this tiny coffin-like hole where Dr. Besigye is being held is locked from outside all the time. These people in Luzira, they serve lunch in the morning. At 9 o'clock in the morning, they are serving lunch. At 3 p.m., they are serving supper, and it is bedtime. Mr. Speaker, to be held in that condition for several hours, it is torture. The bed in that cubicle does not even have a mattress, but only 2 folded blankets. I don't know if we are intending to create another Mandela for this country, because these are places people will try and say, how cruel were these people who lived during these times, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is not about Besigye alone, but it also affects other many people. For example, by the time I visited that place, which holds 18 people, only 3 of those 18 were convicts. Only 3. Others, that was one NOP supporter. He was arrested when he was coming in from South Africa because he's a member of our chapter in South Africa. In 2001, up to today, he's still there. In 2021, he was visiting Uganda from South Africa, but because he belongs to the NOP chapter in South Africa, he was arrested at the airport. His claim, he told me, he's not, even us at NOP, we are not aware that he's there. Because even his relatives in Uganda didn't know that he had traveled to Uganda, and those people in South Africa are considering him missing. So, Mr. Speaker, it is not about even putting better conditions for some prisoners at Luzira. It's about resolving our political issues. Some people are being held as political prisoners, and we now have a category of prisoners who are called political prisoners. People who were arrested go to jail through the court martial, and then until they plead guilty through full figure and balam. You cannot be released from prison until you are forced into a forced plea of guilt. Mr. Speaker, it is so disheartening to have to resolve our political issues using the UPDF courts.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Nzima, then Honorable Abdallah, then Chair, Vice Chair. Oh, sorry. No, Tomaza. Sorry. No, Honorable Tomaza had not spoken.
Thank you very much.
My OBs, I can't forget you. Yes.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Yeah, a lot has been talked about Dr. Besigye while in Luzira prison. Issues related to safety, security locks, solitary confinement, prayers, and so on and so forth. Mr. Speaker, Dr. Besigye is a high-profile prisoner in Luzira prison. And I have not heard about issues related to communication and information. Does he have access to television? Does he have access to radio? Because not having access to this is tantamount to blindness. He is being made blind. He cannot see what's happening in the outside world. And yet he's a high-profile politician and prisoner. And so my concern here is that in the nearest future, let such high-profile politicians or prisoners have access to communication, access to television, access to radio. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Chair will help us on that. Honorable Abdara.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, first of all, I'll invite colleagues to only
I can
look
see
at
high-profile people are robbing.
Right Honorable Speaker, I'll invite colleagues to specifically look at 2 articles of the Constitution. One is Article 28(3), which provides for innocence until proven guilty. In this line, the Attorney General, I beg that you advise the President. A person, once he has been arrested, he is presumed innocent. We may not run away from this person being tried, and we are not running away that a person should not be tried. One, as it was said, that advise police 48 hours, it is a dictate of the Constitution. Once investigations are not yet over, the Constitution is very clear. You should be very clear about that. Article 28, Article 128, it is about the independence of the judiciary, where it clearly states that no person shall interfere with the judicial system or give them directions about what to be done. You have clearly said that the President, and has always been saying that I have directed the Chief Justice not to grant bail, now not to grant bond. This has been consistent with the President. Why interfering with the judicial system? Yet the Constitution is very clear about that. And lastly, I'm not going to comment about the Kabazguruka case because it is the sub judice. There is a very recent judgment of Semju Abdul Nur versus Attorney General. It is number 4 of 2018, and the judgment was delivered on 3rd February 2023, clearly stating that civilians should not be tried in court martial. You are not implementing it. You are just silent and keeping quiet about that. And the very last one, Right Honorable Speaker, I want to inform through you the Attorney General. Honestly, I for one, I may not be complaining about Dr. Kizza Besigye, but he's being charged with 3, with Olal and Obed. You have not talked about Olal. Even the report from the committee does not talk about Olal. Where is Olal? Olal, where is he? Is he in prison? Where is he being detained? We need clarification about. He's also being charged.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Linus. Then Honorable Franca Kabuye.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, the Committee of Human Rights. The chairperson in his statement here mentioned that there are 3 groups of people qualified to provide food, not deliver food to retired colonel.
3 individuals, not 2 groups.
3 individuals, yes. But again, as government, you know, the opposition are so desperate for power, and they will look for everything to tarnish the name of government. And Right Honorable Speaker, do the prison authorities check the food that is delivered? Because even those individuals delivering food might compromise the food and eventually poison the victim or the person jailed is or incarcerated is poisoned, and they start tarnishing and blaming government for poisoning a person in prison. So we also have to look through that as the committee, and then also come up, because government also, we are vulnerable. They can do everything in order to tarnish our image. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Honorable Frank Akabuye, then Honorable Ngiso. Honorable
Thank
Emmanuel
you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank the committee for the observations and some of the recommendations, especially from the minority report. Mr. Speaker, my concern is about the 500% congestion rate in Luzira prison. I believe this is not only in Luzira but also in other prisons, just like comrades have said about Chigo and Chitalia and other prisons where many people have been remanded or convicts have been sentenced to. Right Honorable Speaker, most of these people have not been seen into courts. They have not seen justice, they have not been convicted, but they are on remand for years. And this is affecting their families, their rights, because these are young people. When we speak about the convicts, and when we speak about these that are remanded for over years, for example, in NUP, we have many political prisoners who are still in Chitalia, who are in Chigo, who are in Luzira, and their rights are not being served because they have been denied justice in the courts of law. And these are the people that are accumulating or are congesting the prisons which were meant to hold only 600 prisoners. Now they are in 3,000 prisoners. How I wish the judiciary and also government comes out clear to give freedom to these young people, because most of them are being charged politically. They are not. They have not been into the corruption that we have been seeing around. They have not been found with any arms, but they have put up charges against them, and now they are serving the punishment. Also, lastly, Mr. Speaker, I would like to draw the attention of the committee and also seek clarification from the chairperson in line with the third person who is co-accused with Dr. Kiza Besigye. Would like to know the state in which he is and where he is. Did you interface with him in the prisons, or is out enjoying the freedoms, waiting to be brought back in the court martial to masquerade around as if he was part of the plans that put the doctor and Honorable Lutale into the cells? I beg to submit. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Emmanuel.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. The report, I can say thank you for that report, for both the majority and the minority. And Right Honorable Speaker, this has been occasioned by the question that people asked here, and mainly about the health of Dr. Kiza Besigye and also his feeding. So other things are coming in only as a by the way, as a discovery of what people found out there. Mr. Speaker, I want to say I admire Dr. Besigye a lot about his resilience, because some of us would have chosen just to die. Because what Dr. Kiza Besigye has gone through, some of us are not prepared to take. We would rather die and we go away. But also, I want to warn, because over the weekend I was in Nebi. The perception people have is whether you release Dr. Besigye today, he stays for I don't know how many years, but eventually he dies. People were telling me there is no way there will be no accusation of government, because whatever he has gone through for all these years have accumulatively impacted on his health. And that is the warning which is there. And I had seen the minister who was praying that Besigye is okay. She had come, but now she has gone away. I wish we continue with such prayers. Because honestly, I don't know, by the confession that now he is feeding well, now he can access his doctor, if by that confession if we see Besigye now, he can be looking good. Because ordinarily, Besigye was looking so bad. And I don't think as a government, we really want somebody to go to that extent. And finally, Right Honorable Speaker, I have never been to prisons as either a prisoner or on remand or something. But the reports I get, I really feel for our people. We have a prisons in my constituency, Wadilai. If you see the amount of work these people do and the foods they produce, I would imagine from that they could even sell and make sure that they can eat fish, since we are close there. They can eat a variety. They can produce their own food, sell some, and make sure that the money they get, they can have also other sources or other varieties of food. Because when I hear that they are only on posho and beans, and I'm very sure even the beans must be very poor quality. And yet they are producing so much that can be sold, and from the money they can now buy other foods which they eat. Really, it's something we need to look at. Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Onekarit. Allow me first pick FDC, please. And then those who are FDC by association, like Okupa. But you are an independent here. So, yes, Onekarit, then Batua.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I feel the pain. I feel the frustration that Dr. Kizza Besigye is going through. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, I was arrested when I procured an ambulance for Kitgum municipality during the COVID-19. I was subjected and a very poor treatment, isolated in a very bad small house. My senior number was a call, cubicle. I did not sleep that night. I can feel the pain of Dr. Besigye persevering the solitary confinement, having a passage of 4 gates to access him. 4 gates, 6 gates. The confinement of him not being allowed to go for prayers. Prayers of everything. Mr. Speaker, in history and in record, we have heard of very many political prisoners who has been given even time to give wishes to the public. The likes of Mandela and so many people. For Dr. Besigye Christmas message to be denied, to be published, just because it is having the words of rights and freedom, it pains a lot. Right Honorable Speaker, I really request that this House and the government in particular should put their faith in the condition of Dr. Besigye, the pain is undergoing, and many other Ugandans. If Besigye can be given space, freedom to socialize with these people, the people in prison, it will do less harm. Let him be given the freedom to socialize with the fellow prisoners. It's very important. The torment is terrible. Right, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable Batua.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for granting me an opportunity to speak about the person of Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye. There is no doubt that if anybody is to name 3 important Ugandans that the name of Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye will miss. It is clear in everybody's mind that he has sacrificed for this country. It is clear in everybody's mind that he is a very, very popular person. The last time he was in an election, he garnered over 3.5 million votes as per the Electoral Commission. I was looking at the legal factors that inform the need to remand a person. And one of those is fear that that person will intimidate witnesses. Another is again to do with the fear of the risk of tampering with evidence. Then there is also fear that this person could run. Fear of the seriousness of the offense. When you look at Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye in this perspective and against these reasons, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, in 2005, the very first time Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye went to prison, he was in South Africa when charges, which in his words calls trumped up charges, were put against him. The charge sheet was sent to South Africa, read before him by a colleague, trying to intimidate him and scare him from coming back to Uganda. He did the opposite. He didn't hide in South Africa, even in knowledge of what would happen when he gets here. Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye boarded the plane. He came to Uganda, and true to what he was told, he was arrested, he was detained. He was the first presidential candidate to be nominated while in prison. Now, if you look at that, against this, being a high-profile person, he is sincerely the kind of Ugandan you would prefer that in case he has a case to be answered of this nature, he should be kept at his home, in the comfort of his home, because I'm sure as and when is needed, he will present himself as he did when he was in South Africa. What is before us is a gentleman respected and loved by Ugandans, locked up 5 doors deep into prison. What would happen in the event of fire? Each door has 2 locks. The keys to those locks are centrally placed. What would happen in the event of fire? When a doctor like Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye, who has been in the bush, fighting for freedom, liberty in this country, talks of poison, it goes beyond the fear of food. You can look at it in the nature of solitary confinement that he's in. You put him in one room and other prisoners are sharing rooms. As a doctor, he knows that he can inhale poison.
Honorable Senators.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye is one of my motivators to why I'm here today. The inspiration he has given to many of the youth and many of the leaders who are coming up, it has been because of Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye. Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, at 70 years, Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye, a freedom fighter, a liberator of peace in this country, deserves being treated with respect and dignity, despite all those detentions and torture that he's going through. Right Honorable Speaker, today, as we head into the 2026 general elections, most of us are in fear as opposition from this side. Now that the president is giving those directives of no bonds, no bails, we are all victims of falling into the same situation that Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye is in today. If you are opposing government, anything can happen to you. But also even you who are that side of the NRM, you can also fall victims of exactly what Dr. Kano Kiza Besigye is going through. My prayer, Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, that Dr. Kano Kizza Besigye's detention, unlawful detention and arrest, while we went to the court martial in Chibuli, in Makindye, I saw the pain that he held at his face. It was exactly demonstrating what most Ugandans are going through. The pain of a father, the pain of a husband, the pain of that woman who is dying silently when his husband has been arrested, detained, the pain of a husband, a father or a brother whose child has been arrested innocently and he has no anywhere to go for justice, but only to beg government. I saw the wife, Honorable Winnie Byanyima, pleading to government the first time that before he was taken to court for.
Honorable Cooper.
Right Honorable Speaker, I was just seated thinking and reflecting on those people who are in prison, in the police cells, in ungazetted places. It reminded me in 1988 when, as a young man, 18 years old, I was arrested by the NRS, undressed, locked up in a room of over 20 people, naked, women and men, and women were raped in our eyes. I spent 3 days without tasting any food. The bucket system was being used. The porridge was being brought in buckets. You all have to dip your hands. You have not washed. You have been urinating in the same place. So when I reflect on that, it brings to pain in one's heart. It's not until possibly you have been there that you'll get to know the pain one can go through. At that age, I went through that for 3 weeks. So when we are speaking about this issue of congestion, it perturbs me. And it's all, I think it's not only limited to the prisons. Even the police cells, I want to call upon the Committee of Human Rights to do some impromptu visits to the police cells within the Kampala. On the 29th of December last year, I had gotten news that one of the people from Kasilo had been arrested and brought to Kampala, Chalwajala police station. They had been there for 5 days. I looked at them, there were 7 of them in a cage, like the way you see chicken in Nakawa market, or the markets here. I have a photo here of those people. They could only stand. They did not have where to squat, but they had to kneel on one another in order to sleep. So I want to call on the Committee of Human Rights to visit these places, to know how people are suffering. Just for petty, just on petty issues. I was reflecting how you can be on beans and posho for 28 years, like the case, Right Honorable Speaker. For 28 years, beans and posho. Only. Right Honorable Speaker, when you mentioned about Honorable Kabuye, that when was he born, I just said, can you imagine someone without conjugal rights since the time Honorable Kabuye was born? Honorable Kabuye has even got children. How many of you can last all that? That's even the pain. Right, Honorable Speaker. You can take it to different dimensions to make you feel. Maybe that's the language you need to get in and get to feel. And you even don't know for what case this someone has spent all those years. I wish Attorney General was still here. I would have asked him whether.
Thank you, Honorable Mujete.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Right Honorable Speaker, I am not a member of the Committee of Human Rights, but because I'm the person who raised this matter here, I went with the committee as an observer. And I've been following up the matter, and I want to thank them for the good job. And I was there when Dr. Wisse was ushered in, I looked at the members. Apart from Honorable Fox, I saw almost everybody crying. I think Fox is the strongest. I don't know the strongest, or he was not as touched as most of us. But two, I have read
Honorable Chair, my wonderful friend, the Honorable Francis Mwijushe, has stated on record that he observed the members of the committee and concluded that almost all of them cried except me. Is the Honorable Mwijushe a competent and fit person to determine emotions of people? And is he in order to insinuate that I am a heartless member of parliament without any feelings?
Now, what if he cried from inside, if there was a cry? Okay? Yeah. So, but honorable colleagues, let's not try to insinuate that. I know we can express our opinion is better.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. And I wanted to say, while there, Dr. Visha said, health-wise he was okay.
No, Mwijushe, your colleague, who was gracious enough to invite you, even as an observer.
Yes, he's a very strong man. He's a very strong man. He couldn't cry. He's very strong. After all, he's a chair. If a chair cries, who will remain? But Right Honourable Speaker, I actually put it to Doctor. He said you're accessing doctors. You say your health is fine, but we see you frail. What's the problem? And he said it is trauma. Yes, he says it is trauma. And we said, but how? He actually said, with this trauma, these doctors can actually not treat it. So he said the only solution for me is to get out of here. Otherwise, with trauma, doctors cannot find solutions to it. Because you would see that even when he says that he's accessing services, but he's weaker. He actually at some stage almost fell down while he was standing to speak to us. But I just wanted to conclude by saying that Parliament has done a good job, because when we discussed it, I'm told after our discussion here, it is when prison services started discussing certain issues which have since changed. So the role of Parliament will not be underestimated. So I want to thank you, Honourable Speaker, for taking up this very important issue, asking Honourable Fox, the strongest, to lead the committee that has come up with the report that will remain in the history of this country for the future. And of course, to also...
Thank you. Lope? Lope?
Honourable Speaker, I'm glad that the Human Rights Committee went to visit Dr. Kiza Besigye and Haji Obed Lutale. You know, when I said here that it's important that as Parliament we do something so that we don't let down these people. So this is step number one. But you see, it's only step number one. I hope that we can push government on some of these concerns. The concern of solitary confinement has come through again and again. For those that have been to prison, solitary confinement is actually a prison within a prison. Normally, for especially the convicts, when some of them, become errant or whatever the case might be, that is when they will be taken to solitary confinement. It's a punishment. But now here you are, Dr. Kiza Besigye, he is still innocent until proved guilty, but is being punished. And that's why we are concerned about political persecution. Because clearly that's what it is. You'd wonder why. Somebody said that, you see, he's allowed for a priest to go to him and pray with him. But again, that's taking away his right to freely associate with other prisoners. They excuse that he's very popular and so there will be excitement. How is that his problem? Honorable Speaker, one of my colleagues did ask about a new co-accused of Dr. Kizza Besigye, Captain Dennis Ola. I was consulting our Shadow Minister for Justice and Constitutional Affairs, who is a member of this committee and went. In his interaction with the prisons officers, they said they do not have him. They don't have a detention order for him, so they don't know his whereabouts. And it's concerning in two ways. One, that this could have just been propped up as a red herring. But two, that very concerningly, he could be held God knows nowhere. But where is this man? I hoped that the committee would follow this up to establish, because you see now, it is Dr. Kizza Besigye, Haji Obed Lutale, now there is Captain Dennis Ola. I thought that you would take interest in him because he's a co-accused. Where is this man? We didn't hear that. Finally, Right Honorable Speaker, the learned Attorney General talked about police bond. Let me reiterate. Article 28(3)(a) of our country's constitution talks about the presumption of innocence. You see, this whole narrative of these thieves should be denied bond, these thieves, it is only a competent court that can determine that somebody is a thief, somebody is a murderer, somebody is whatever. Because when you refer to them, even by referring to them as thieves, you have convicted them. You don't have that right, regardless who you are in this country. And that's why they are treated the way they are treated. Honorable Speaker, you remember a couple of days ago, there were some people who were shot at by police. And then they said, you see, 3 of these people have been on our wanted list, we've been looking for them. Arrest them and take them to court. But you see, they are treating them as convicted people. And that's the challenge there is, even with this whole, let's ban police bond, let's ban bail, because you treat these people as guilty already. The Constitution is clear. Let there be due process, then a competent court can determine that this person is guilty, so they should serve a particular sentence, or that kind of thing. And that's why there's negative attitudes towards some of these people. You see the way Dr. Kizza Besigye is being treated, because as far as he's concerned, he's saying these people have already adjudged me guilty. That's why they're treating me the way they are treating me, solitary confinement and taking out all these different rights, because you don't treat these people as suspects, which is problematic. Because you see, any of us, Right Honorable Speaker, whether on this side or on this side, can on any day find themselves in a situation like this. The other day, and I say Honorable Paul Akamba is here, we were talking about him when we were asking questions. We were asking government, where is Honorable Paul Akamba? Because he was granted bail and arrested and kidnapped, actually, within the precincts of court. And for about 3 or so days, no one knew where he was. And we were asking. And he belongs to that side. So this should not even be a partisan issue. It should be of concern to all of us, Right Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair.
I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I will respond to a few issues. The first issue is solitary confinement. Right Honorable Speaker, the facts are clearly captured in the report. Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye is detained in a wing that has a total of 20 prisoners. 20.
20 or 18?
Let me go back to my records. You are correct. A total of 18 prisoners, Right Honorable Speaker. Solitary refers to the word soul. It's a singular. You cannot impute. There's no way you can state that a wing that accommodates 18 people has a prisoner in solitary confinement.
Common sense issues, and those are the facts. Number two, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker. It's also not true. No, can I explain this? Can I just explain it? I will give you the opportunity. No, I will allow. In the wing where Kano Dr. Kizza Besigye is detained, there are rooms, single rooms, and there's a cell, an open cell. Kano Kizza Besigye occupies one of those single rooms that is never locked. Fact, the door is never locked. Directly opposite him is Haji Obed, occupying a single room that is never locked. So they are not in solitary confinement. And we had this discussion even with Kano Dr. Kizza Besigye. The third issue I wanted to clarify, Right Honourable Speaker, is access to TV. And I should apologize, we did not report on this. The prisoners have access to a television set. It is the size of that television up there. Yeah, that television is in a corridor. We asked Dr. Kizza Besigye, do you have access to TV? He said yes. We are permitted to watch news on NTV and on NBS. He specifically stated those two television sets. And we asked him whether he has access to newspapers. We had a 3-hour interaction with Dr. Kizza Besigye. We interrogated every aspect. And his answer was, yes, I have access to newspapers. The newspapers are censured by the removal of expressive female photographs. They remove female photographs before they give them the newspapers. This morning.
So you mean like Honorable Nambo's picture, basically cannot access it? Newspapers now.
If it's partially nude.
No. She's always decent dressed. She doesn't.
Yeah. But so this morning we tasked the Commissioner General of Prisons to explain the rationale of removing female photographs from newspapers. And his answer, which is even contained here, is we need to maintain order in the prison service. And I can understand.
No, Honorable Chair, please, I don't have much time. Please.
The next issue that we should clarify is Captain Ola. We asked the prison services for the whereabouts of Captain Ola when we visited Luzira. They gave us answers at that time. But this morning, they again submitted their position in writing. This report, the written submissions of the Commissioner General of Prisons is contained in the documents that I laid on the floor of the House. Their answer is at page 7, number G. The question was, if the court-martial directed that Captain Dennis Ola be brought to Luzira prison, why is he being held elsewhere? And the answer is the following. Section 58 of the Prisons Act states that no person shall be received or admitted in prison custody without a valid commitment or remand warrant, order or detention warrant of conviction or committal signed with a court seal or authenticated by a person authorized to sign such a warrant. Uganda Prison Service has never received any of the above documents to admit the said Captain Dennis Ola in the prison's custody. It continues at page 8. At page 8, they state the remand orders for Kano retired Dr. Kizza Besigye and Haji Lutare are hereby attached. As already mentioned,
Captain Dennis Ola is not in our custody. And we have on our record the detention warrants of the 2 prisoners. We don't have the detention warrant for Captain Ola. We investigated this matter further than that, and we got the testimony of Dr. Kano Shiza Besigye to the effect that he met Captain Ola for the first time in the dock, and he interrogated Captain Ola. The information he got from him is that he has been appearing before the General Court Martial for a very long period of time, and he's remanded within Makindye Barracks. That information I have not had the opportunity to verify, and that's the reason it didn't appear in the report of the committee. Right Honorable Speaker, we undertake to continue making impromptu visits to police cells. During the course of last year, the Committee on Human Rights visited police cells in the whole of eastern Uganda, starting with Jinja all the way to Karamoja, and we are working on a report that we shall present very soon. I didn't want to make any comments on the state of capital, on the state of Kano, Dr. Shiza Besigye, but only to state that as a Christian, I feel for every person in prison. I feel for every person in prison. As a human being, I know the inevitability of ending up in prison. As a human rights lawyer, as a human rights defender, I have a duty to protect the rights of every citizen of the Republic of Uganda. So to insinuate that there are some members of the committee who are better predisposed to Right Honorable Speaker, we asked Kano Dr. Shiza Besigye to make a self-assessment of his strength, his health. When he was produced before the committee, I had even asked him to make his submissions while seated. And his answer was, I am strong enough to stand. He stood up on his own volition and made a presentation that lasted 3 hours. So where the Honorable Francis Mujushe gets this position that he couldn't even stand, I don't know. I beg to submit.
Thank you. Yes, Honorable Dur, you wanted to...
Yes, Mr. Speaker, sir, my 1 second is not about anything in rebut. I want to just thank you for giving the Committee of Human Rights business. This committee that I've been part of and I've complained, and it must go on record, is one of the most dormant committee. And if you had not given us this business, the whole of this financial year, it was possible that it would go without the Committee of Human Rights doing business. So I want to thank you so much and appreciate you and invite you to give us more business to do.
No, but Honorable colleagues, your mandate, for each committee's mandate is provided for in our rules. Okay? Honorable Fox.
Right Honorable,
you should thank me for giving you business.
I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for giving us business. But Right Honorable Speaker, it's not true that we are a dormant committee. What is factually correct is that the Honorable Udur has missed more than the 15 sittings of the committee. And I will never raise that issue. Right Honorable Speaker, I rose.
Mr. Speaker, I am on record. I know what constitutes a committee meeting in Parliament. A workshop by entities other than committees of parliament. In golf course, in Imperial, purported to be a committee meeting. It's not a committee meeting. I have the record. I can prove the chairman has been inviting us members to workshops organized by NGOs.
That's not true.
Now, no, honorable colleagues, now we are going beyond. No.
Right, Honorable Speaker, can we make progress?
Yeah.
There's a more serious issue. Right, Honorable Speaker, I had some preliminary consultations with the authors of the minority report to try and narrow the gaps. They make 2 recommendations, and we are amenable to adopting the first recommendation. Parliament takes keen interest in the fears of retired Dr. Kano Shiza Besigye. For whatever it's worth, I would concede that we adopt this together with the recommendations of the committee. Right Honorable Speaker, in respect of the second recommendation by the minority, I pointed out to the Honorable Udur that we think this offends the law. And in my discussions with him, I also stated to him that this matter is already in court. I think it's only in the premise of the court to grant the orders sought by this recommendation. It's only the courts that
I get you.
It's only the courts that can make orders for the termination of the trial of Dr. Shiza Besigye and the transfer of his trial to the civilian courts. So, if my brother can be heard on this matter, we could make progress and resolve this issue. I beg to move.
Thank you. Attorney General, you wanted to what's your view on this second recommendation?
It is a position we agreed upon with the committee chairperson that this matter is most likely going to be addressed in the ruling of the Supreme Court that we expect to come up on Friday. So, in any case, it is outside our ambit now to decide whether it should be civil or criminal court.
Thank you. Honorable Jonathan, I had also read it, and reading was feeling like it's going beyond the scope and our mandate as Parliament to order, okay, that the detention in Luzira be terminated and any trial be held in civilian court. I felt it was going beyond, but usually we consult. These are issues where we can build consensus. Honorable Jonathan, I don't know, what's your view on the opinions expressed on this?
Mr.